Have you ever heard of a myth so obscure even mythology enthusiasts don't talk about it? Meet the Aeternae, creatures with saw-like bones growing straight from their heads, which they use to kill with single brutal blows. Born from legend and whispered in the footsteps of Alexander the Great, the Aeternae are a hidden gem in the world of ancient mythology. So, what do we actually know about them? Unlike famous monsters like the Hydra or the Minotaur, the Aeternae don't appear in well-known Greek texts or myths. Instead, they show up in much rarer sources, specifically apocryphal accounts of Alexander the Great's march toward Asia. Some of these stories are found in the so-called Alexander Romance, old texts that combine true historical conquests with fantastical tales meant to elevate Alexander's status and mystique. In one version, Alexander's army, while marching through the wild and unnamed corners of Central Asia, reportedly encountered a strange and deadly race. These were the Aeternae. Described as humanoid but horrifying, the Aeternae were said to have bony, saw-toothed ridges growing from their heads. But these weren't just natural decorations. According to these accounts, they used them in combat. They would ram enemy soldiers, swiping and cutting them down using their cranial blades. The soldiers of Alexander's army, some of the most disciplined the ancient world had ever seen, reportedly lost men to these mysterious beings. Now, how much of that is fact, and how much is fear-fueled legend? That's the real mystery. Let's take a closer look. First, the physical description. The Aeternae were said to walk upright, human-like in form, but their most alarming feature was the set of protruding, jagged bones jutting from their heads, described as curved, serrated, and deadly. They had no role as divine messengers, protectors, or sacred creatures. Their presence in the myth is purely destructive. The Aeternae were not pious guardians. They weren't sent by gods. They were creatures to be feared, wild, brutal, and savage. So what inspired such a story? Some scholars believe these creatures could have been exaggerated accounts of real animals encountered in Central Asia. Think about it. Soldiers from Greece encountering a native species like a large antelope or goat with twisted, sharp horns might describe them as monsters, especially if seen during battle or in poor visibility. Add rumors, whispers, and retellings in foreign tongues, and suddenly a creature with scary-looking horns becomes a race of deadly head-butting killers with bone swords growing from their skulls. It's also possible that the Aeternae were invented as cautionary tales, markers of danger, unknown lands, and the superstitions that always followed ancient armies. Unlike the richly illustrated myths of Medusa or the Chimera, the Aeternae weren't featured in temples, artwork, or epic tragedies. They remain mostly silent in the historical record, just a strange, frightening side note in the vast landscape of mythology surrounding one of history's most iconic leaders. But modern creators are starting to rediscover them. In fantasy games, creature design, and obscure bestiaries, the Aeternae are sometimes reimagined as terrifying humanoids, twisted by nature into living weapons. Because so little about them is fixed, they offer creators a blank slate, a nightmare waiting to be drawn. So now the real question: were the Aeternae real? Were they based on encounters with foreign tribes, unknown species, or just born from exhausted minds weaving stories in the campfire light? Or were they something more, an early form of cryptid, a lost myth that simply faded while others rose? We may never know the full truth, but what we do know is that their legend, however small, has survived more than 2,000 years, passed down in whispers from the edge of history. If you enjoyed learning about this forgotten myth, make sure to like this video and subscribe for more unexplored monsters, hidden legends, and ancient curiosities from around the world. And let us know, what do you think really happened during Alexander's strange encounter? Myth? Mistranslation? Or maybe, just maybe, something monstrous did walk those wild lands long ago?